Fox News has a piece called Iran Deal is a Disaster That Does Not Achieve the Actual Goals, Ben Shapiro.
Okay, with that, we bring in Ben Shapiro, host of The Ben Shapiro Show. Ben, good to have you with us today. Your reaction to this MOU that we've all had a look at now, at least where it stands now, could be a little different when the signing happens, and also to what the president had to say there, Ben.
Well, I've said many times, the president deciding to go into Iran and to hit nuclear facilities in Operation Midnight Hammer, and then to go after Iran's ballistic missile facilities, nuclear facilities, Army, Navy, and Air Force in this current operation was the signal act of political bravery, perhaps, of my lifetime. With that said, this MOU appears to be, just from the text, a disaster that does not achieve any of the actual signal goals that were set by the administration.
What goals are those? The destruction of all of their nuclear facilities? Yep. No, for sure. The deal definitely went over that, no? No. Giving them $300 billion. That was part of the original agreement, right?
At the beginning. There were effectively 5 goals that were set by the administration at the beginning. One was ending the nuclear program, not just nuclear weapons, no nuclear enrichment, zero enrichment. That is not in the deal. Ballistic missiles ended. That is not in the deal. And the president today suggested that ballistic missiles should actually continue to be held by the Iranians because the Saudis, our allies, also hold ballistic missiles. Then you have the support of terrorism. That is not part of the deal. Anything that looks like an attempt.
The support of terrorism in the deal is crazy. Oh, he's so mad.
To end terrorism, a permanent opening of the Strait of Hormuz toll-free. Not only is that not in the deal appears to have a provision allowing Iran and Oman to attempt to toll the strait after 60 days. And then finally, the idea that Iran would receive some sort of sanctions relief after all of those things happen. We are already seeing from day one relief in their ability to ship oil out of Iran. In my opinion, the vice president of the United States, the chief negotiator on this particular project, has not well served the president.
So just to clarify, the president was asked about the missiles. He said not ballistic, the other kind of missiles. We're going to hear more detail on that because obviously that's a huge question here. It was one of the things that was missing in the JCPOA, any control of the Iranian missile program. So we'll look for more detail on that. Here's the president talking about what he sees as an overly aggressive posture from Israel in Lebanon in the recent part of this war. Watch this.
In all fairness to Bibi Netanyahu, who happens to be a good man, gets a little excited sometimes. We have a little dispute over Lebanon. I say, you can do a little softer touch, Bibi. You don't have to knock down a building every time somebody walks into it that's from Hezbollah. But it's been an amazing partnership. But he will say, we're the big partner and he's the very small partner, and that's true.
Your thoughts on that, Ben?
The fact is that the president himself has suggested that Israel has a right.
Can I be honest? Bro. Bibi, just a little softer hand. Please, Bibi, just a little softer hand. Please don't release the Epstein files, Bibi. Please don't release them. I'm begging you. Please don't do that, please.
To defend itself. Ambassador Huckabee, our ambassador to Israel, has said that Israel has a right.
Israel can go eat a bag of dicks. That's literally the most anti-Semitic statement I've ever seen in my life.
To defend itself. Hezbollah is a terrorist group. It is not the government of Lebanon. And in
That's
fact,
basically a call to action for terrorism.
Is opposed to the government of Lebanon, and they've been firing ordnance over the border at Israel for literally years at this point. The idea that Israel should be held back from defending itself against a terror group that is a proxy army of Iran because we have some sort of deal over the Strait of Hormuz is a massive tactical blunder that gives Iran one of the things that Iran actually wants, which is to reconstitute its forward operating base in Lebanon. And anything that allows them to reconstitute their terror army would be a huge regional mistake.
All right.
Terror army, but he's not talking about the IDF and he's not talking about the U.S. military. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Ben Shapiro, thank you very much for weighing in today and joining us. It's always good to have you with us. Thank you, Ben.
Thanks so much.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News.
I'm going to be honest. It's pretty insane that we live in this timeline where like the president can just do the worst things possible and everyone is unhappy, but it's fine. Like nothing happens. Nothing actually changes. None of this is grounds for like removal. You can't say that that's the most anti-Semitic. There are still people out there saying free Palestine. Even worse, there's people out there saying free parking. Like, I just don't understand when the anti-Semitism will stop. Okay? talking about actual Nazis in the Republican Party. No. We have to talk about the people saying free parking in the leftist circles. All right? When are we going to talk about that? I saw free pallets the other day at the Home Depot. I feel like it just feels like no one on the left seems to care. Just like, why does nobody care?
Withering criticism of the agreement the president signed with Iran. And a lot of it is coming from members of his own party. And this morning, before dawn, the president indicated he does not like these comments one bit. Now, the concerns raised include the pause in sanctions allowing Iran to sell oil immediately, the lack of specifics on curbing Iran's nuclear program, the opening for Iran to ultimately charge fees for ships to transit the Strait.
Why are they playing the epic music?
Of Hormuz. And beyond the text of the plan, criticisms of the new comments that the president himself made, suggesting Iran should be allowed to have missiles, even though one of the stated goals of the whole war was to destroy their missiles. Listen now to the critics.
Now, I don't want to see theocratic Islamists who want to kill us made stronger. So if this deal is giving them $300 billion, that's a mistake.
They're better off than they were before the hostility.
Dude, this is on Fox News, by the way. Sorry, this is a rebroadcast on CNN, and it's a rebroadcast on the Denims broadcasting service on DBS. However, on Fox News, they brought on, what is this Willy Wonka looking ass? They brought him on, and he's just like, I can't believe this. Trump is going to sign a deal that makes Iran better off than they were before. Bro was in Fifth Element. Bro looks like an Oompa Loompa, man. Like, I don't know. It's like if you took an Oompa Loompa and like stretched him a little bit. What's with the hair, dude? The hair is a crazy big.
Dude. Began, and that should not be the consequence of war.
Some calling it an American surrender, saying it's even worse than the Obama deal of 2015. Now, Nikki Haley called it a, quote, huge mistake to pay to rebuild the threat we just destroyed. Senator Ted Cruz told the Daily Wire he felt like Trump was getting very poor advice and called it ill-advised. In the meantime, Senator Bill Cassidy took it one step further.
This will go down as a tremendous foreign policy blunder. Iran ends up stronger. Our allies in the region are weaker. And Iran has learned that if they're willing to grab that Strait of Hormuz and choke it off, they can get the Western world to dance to their tune. I think it's a deep mistake.
No, it's more that like Trump just doesn't care to be in this conflict anymore and he's over it. And he's tired of having bad coverage and he realizes that like the US is never going to get what the US wants out of this because they have too much financial leverage. And unless Trump is willing to like literally nuke Iran, which he's not willing to do that, there's nothing to do. There's nothing to do except concede. So it's like, how much longer are we going to like, just like stop the bleeding, bro? Sometimes you got to like cut your losses, bro. We fucking lost because Taco is a fucking idiot. Yeah. Yup. Love the hair. Thanks, guys. Thank you all for being nice about the hair. I don't know why I didn't expect to look so seen, but I look quite like a scene kid.
How do you know the president doesn't like these comments? Around 4:30 a.m. this morning, he wrote, quote, these fools who think I haven't been tough enough on Iran are either jealous, bad people, or stupid.
Joining us now, CNN political commentators S.E. Cupp, former Trump White House communications director Anthony Scaramucci, author of the upcoming book, All the Wrong Moves, How Three Catastrophic Decisions Led to the Rise of Trump, and Republican strategist Brad Todd. Anthony, what do you think of the deal?
Well, it's so hard to believe that I actually thought it can't be true. And we look through the numbers, like, okay, there's no way that this is the deal. And I think he's pinned now because the reaction is so bad.
He's pinned.
that he'll now start lying about it and saying, okay, that wasn't really the deal. Go look at this shiny object over here and let's
Go look at this shiny object over here. It's crazy.
pretend that that's not the deal. So the market thus far has not reacted poorly, but I expect it to as this unfolds.
He also seems to be now kind of pointing the finger at J.D. Vance a little bit, kind of almost kind of setting him up as the fall guy.
Yeah, I think in the beginning of the war, you'll probably remember, it seemed like he was setting up Pete Hegseth, right? Remember, he pointed at Pete in a meeting and he was like, this was Pete's idea. Seems like he's shifted to J.D. Vance now owns, I guess, the conclusion of this war, where Pete maybe owns the beginning. But listen, for a lot of Republicans, myself a former Republican included, we have a long memory of the JCPOA, and I remember the condemnation of that for good reason. It wasn't a great deal. Next to that deal, this looks like the Magna Carta of deals. Like, this looks like a treaty. I mean, or that looked like the Magna Carta of deals next to Trump's. It's just so bad. It doesn't leave us with much of anything we didn't have before. In fact, our economy is weaker. Our allies and our enemies don't trust our might anymore. We've watched Trump capitulate on a bunch of things. I just don't see how he can save face with this if the details stay as they are.
Anderson, I want you to imagine a scenario where the Obama administration, the Biden administration created $1 trillion of economic damage, $1 billion a day to fight a war. When the war was over, the straits closed, and we're going to give $300 billion of reparations, and nothing resolved on the nuclear situation.
And if Biden had been praising like the mullahs and the leaders there,
it's okay to have missiles. Everybody's got a few missiles here and there. There would be outrage like you can't believe. So I guess the big question is, how does Trump still get away?
What are you doing to that cat? Okay, wait. I have the perfect meme for this. Hold up. Wait. Many people don't know this. Cat owners don't know this. Non-cat owners, excuse me, don't know this. But for some reason, cats love to be patted. And some cats are some fucking freaks. And they want you to pat them borderline violently. Oh, wait, I didn't save it? No way. Wait, what the heck? No, I know I saved it. Damn, maybe I didn't save it, guys. Maybe I didn't save it. It was just this video of like what cat owners see, and it's like the patting, and then it's like what non-cat owners see, and it's like the person punching a fucking pillow really hard, and it's like, hey man, cats are some freaky ass creatures. They're like, yes, and then when you stop, they look at you and meow. They're like, meow. Why did you stop? Meow.
Away with it. What is it about his?
Yeah, they want to be treated like a bongo. They're like, they just want you to do this. And they're like, yes, finally, I'm satisfied. Isn't that right, Wormy? All right.
Teflon that allows them to get away with something like this. And I think as we get closer to the midterms and over the midterms, despite his stronghold on the primary voters in the Republican Party, I think the traditional Republicans are going to really break from him.
Brad, I want to play what President Trump said actually about J.D. Vance.
I mean, what they're saying is true, but what the fuck is the alternative for these pundits? We shouldn't have been in this war in the first place, and at that time, we're enabling the warmongering that these guys want us to drop nukes on Iran. I mean, low-key, I think Ben Shapiro wanted us to drop nukes on Iran. I think actually, like, Randy Fine wanted that. I think there are a lot of, like, actual conservatives that did want that did want us to literally nuke Iran. And think that this is the most cucked. I mean, yeah, I also agree, though, that it is the most cucked thing that Trump could have done, but it's like, maybe he shouldn't have gotten into this war in the first place?
There's some element to this where you send the vice president. If it works out, great, you look like a genius for sending him. And if it doesn't work out, It's the vice president's.
I like that idea, sure. What? This way, if it works out, I'm going to take the credit. If it doesn't work out, I'm blaming JD. You better be careful, JD. He's going to turn his plane around and get the hell out of here. Yeah, I like that idea. I think it's a good idea.
Brad, Republican Senator Bill Cassidy also said that this agreement is going to leave Iran stronger, our allies weaker. There's precedent for Iran to use control over the Strait of Hormuz as leverage. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
Well, I think the president should have said the vice president didn't read the art of the MOU. I don't know about the art of the deal here yet. And
Rubio looks so fucking beat down, dude. Dude, Rubio is like, he's longing for a time before Trump, when politics was predictable.
this is just a memorandum of understanding. I certainly hope the final deal will be better. And I think
you think there's going to be a final deal?
There's a right to be skeptical, but there are some carrots in there for the Iranians at the end of a final deal, which is the U.S. forces don't have to leave the region until 30 days after a final deal. Hopefully that this final deal will be worth leaving over. This certainly is not. I'm in touch with a lot of Republican elected officials and candidates, and I've not heard one of them today say that what they've heard so far on this MOU is a good idea. I think that's an indication that it's a political problem. And the president's not on the ballot anymore, but the vice president might want to run one day, and I think it could be a very big political problem for him in the future.
Do either of you see there actually?
Also, man, I'm sure many of you guys already saw this, but the moment the president signed the Iran deal at the Palace of Versailles, the agreement was finalized during a dinner hosted by the French President Macron inside the historic palace. The signing marked a major diplomatic milestone after months of negotiations aimed at ending the conflict between the U.S. and Iran. Meow.
Great job. Bravo. Good job. Great job. Bravo.
Sorry, warm interruption. You have something you want to tell everyone, Wormy? Oh. I was so little. I was such a small cat. Write that down. Write that down. Dude, I gotta say, he signed the unconditional surrender of the United States in Versailles. Hasn't it occurred to any empty-headed fools in his administration to think about the hilariously funny symbolism that this humiliation entails? This shit's not lost on me, man, dude. What a joke of a country. What a joke. The only positive thing about this is, one, maybe the war's actually over, unless, Israel decides that they're gonna just start not ceasing their fire. Let's put it that way. And then we're right back where we started. However, let's just chatter up with. Yeah, it's probably not over if we're gonna be real. Well, the fact that the agreement relies on Israel not engaging in any more warfare in the Middle East, it's kind of a big no-no for Netanyahu. It would be good if it passed, but I just don't see a universe where Israel abides by these terms. I was going to say something else and I blanked on it.
Being a nuclear agreement, Ellen Iyer was like 60 days, 120 days, doesn't matter the length of time. There's not really leverage over the Iranian regime.
just by way of example, the JCPOA took 2 years to ratify that deal, to come to these specifics, because the devil is always in the details with these. And Iran is patient. Iran has been planning and preparing for a war of attrition with the United States for 20 years. They are cheering this deal. And I think if they think that they can actually walk Trump over the finish line because he is desperate, he's tired, he's bored of this, and it's a midterm election year, I think that's what they're hoping for. They're holding out that they can actually walk him across the finish line on these details.
Anthony, do you think this affects the midterms at all?
I think on the margin it affects the midterms, because the midterms to me still is going to be about affordability.
I mean, the really fucked thing is that Israel is like, they require the war to continue. But in order for Trump to even pretend like, one, he can run again, or two, the Republicans might be able to win the midterms, is if the war ends and people can finally stop looking at how high their gas prices are and stop paying like $500 to fill up a fucking car.
And I don't think anything gets done here. And I think there'll be higher oil prices leading into the midterms. And if the Democrats can get it together and coalesce.
So 1 second, let me just get a Red Bull. I'm listening. 1 sec.
They have a big statement against the president and his party.
But it's not just the Democrats. You're absolutely right about that. It's Republicans. You've already mentioned a bunch of Republicans
they'll start
who are mad about it.
They'll start breaking.
It's not just congressional Republicans who are up for re-election. Trump doesn't seem to care. It's also voters. It's Republican voters who didn't want this war, who don't want the consequences of this war, namely higher gas prices. They don't want any part of this. So I think it will have kind of a ripple effect for the midterms.
I would agree and disagree with SC on that, Anderson. I think the war was, most Republicans did want to back the war. They do want to take out Iran. I think it's one place I disagree with SC on it. But there is a pressure on the Republican coalition. There is a foreign policy wing of the Republican coalition, and they're really capitalist suburbanites, and they've not always been Trump's biggest fans. I don't think this will help him with them. And then there are more blue-collar people who are very cost-sensitive on local affairs and economic affairs. I think this potentially could help with
cost-sensitive. Is crazy. It's crazy
with them. But this is you don't want to be talking about half your coalition being happy with anything. And I think if the final deal is not better, this is a real electoral problem for the president.
It also seems like, there was an administration official which talked about kind of the
electoral problem was getting into the war in the first place, because you either get into a 10-year war that drives everyone's prices up, that doesn't improve anyone's lives, that makes Americans lose lives, or you end up with whatever this is, where we just admit defeat immediately and say, hey, so girly pop, our bad. We didn't mean it. We were just joking around, all right? We were actually just joking. There.
A gentleman's agreement with Iran about certain aspects of the negotiations, and that the U.S. official told CNN either side could walk away from talks over the next 60 days.
A lot of this seems to be like honor system, which, again, should make everyone deeply suspicious.
Isn't that like how most agreements work? That's how most diplomatic agreements work. Huh? Hey, we promise we won't do this. You promise you won't do that. Okay? Great. That's what? What else are you supposed to do? Like what? Huh? Literally all treaties are honor agreements? Yeah. What?
There were some provisions in Obama's deal. For example, the supposedly anytime, anywhere inspections ended up giving Iran 24 days delay for them to hide stuff before inspectors came. Like, Iran's good at this. They are good at getting these carve-outs in.
Interesting strategy. Iran is just really beating our ass completely, entirely.
Into these deals. So Iran is going to be patient. Iran is going to wait. And
thanks, Lunette. Thank you guys for all the nice comments about the hair. It's still growing on me. I better not see a person say, of course it's growing on you. It's your hair.
I think they like this framework so far.
Anderson, when the Iranians called this an exemplification of America's failure, the deal, is that part of the gentleman's agreement or is that non-gentlemanly?
Anthony, I mean, somebody who knows the president, worked for him. How does he look? Like, how does he seem to you? Just in talking, maybe he's been traveling internationally.
Did we just ignore that question? Oh, okay.
The schedule is grueling.
Listen, I'm not in the president's got dementia camp. I think he's healthy for an 80. Year-old, that he has a prodigious level of energy. He went from a UFC fight on Saturday to France.
Yeah, it's grueling.
And so you got to give him credit for all that. But what I really think the problem is they're afraid of him.
It's grueling to sit there and watch other people fight. Why are we talking about it like he was in the UFC fight?
And there's a decision-making committee.
The people around him are afraid.
Yeah, there's a decision-making committee of one. And they don't want to get in his crosshairs. They don't want to get fired. They like the significance of being around him and flying around on the big plane. And so if Abraham Lincoln had a team of rivals, the president has a hall of mirrors. And they're all trying to reflect to him what he wants. And I think it's very dangerous because straight shooters would go to him and say, well, this is a disaster. Let's get in a room with a group of negotiators and let's game theory what we need to do to better our position here.
But you know him particularly well in terms of his salesmanship. I don't think he bothered to sell this war.
Yeah.
Oh, obviously not. No, I mean that was a big problem with the NATO coalition.
SC Cup, Anthony Scaramucci. Thanks, Brad Todd, as well.
Let's get to CNN's Betsy Klein live at the. Might not be a happy morning there for the president as he is now back for the G7.
Yeah, John, when the president was in France yesterday holding this press conference, he had one very specific goal, and that was to convince a skeptical public, including Republicans, that this deal that he had reached with Iran was both different from the Obama-era Iran deal and a good deal for the United States. Now, he says that it's going to prevent Iran from procuring or producing a nuclear weapon, and that it will reopen the Strait of Hormuz.
The signed agreement says right at the top, Iran and the U.S. declare the immediate and permanent termination of military operation on all fronts, including Lebanon, and undertake from now on not to initiate any war or military action, and ensuring the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Lebanon and the other provisions. Yeah, this shit probably ain't holding. The second Israel does some fuck shit, it's done. Which, like, literally, when has Israel ever respected the United States? Has ever been like, oh, you guys don't want us to do that? Oh. We just didn't know. All right, we'll stop immediately.
The president's seeking to defend the waivers that allow Iran to export oil and the provision that commits the U.S. and regional partners to developing a $300 billion reconstruction and economic development fund that he says the U.S. will not provide any money to. But he also said very revealing comments that he is in part signing this agreement to avoid economic catastrophe by ending this conflict. He said if it had gone on any longer, it could have led to that, and also said that he didn't want to be Herbert Hoover, of course, referring to the U.S. president who presided over the Great Depression. But the president signing a hard copy of this agreement last night during a dinner at the Palace of Versailles before returning to Washington overnight. What's unclear now is whether this deal has actually started that 60-day clock for the more technical discussions on Iran's nuclear material. The president has suggested himself that deadline is flexible. Meanwhile, the White House fielding new criticism about this deal, including in Iran, where one newspaper says that the U.S. has suffered, quote, a glorious defeat, and from lawmakers, including
a glorious defeat is crazy.
Senator Ted Cruz, who warned it could be a mistake, as well as Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, who has sparred with the White House recently. He said in a post to
oh my God, dude, these newspapers are crazy.
Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, who has sparred with the White House recently, he said in a post to social media that it could be the worst foreign policy blunder in decades. Now, Vice President J.D. Vance is expected to travel to Switzerland, where he is going to meet with Iran as well as mediators Pakistan and Qatar. They are going to have initial talks about implementation of this deal, according to the Swiss, John.
His comments about Herbert Hoover seem to be a tacit admission that Iran's economic strategy might have been working. Betsy Klein at the White House this morning. We will see what more the president has to say if he gets back on social media. Thank you.
So, American Century of Humiliation? So, American Century of Humiliation, right?